What do you honestly hope to see?
I don't know. Maybe nothing.
Is this why we came out here, Mulder? To look for UFOs?
I decided to do a review of the first 6 episodes. Basically, what have we learned from them collectively? Critical analysis sounds a little too pretentious for me, but the Y key on my keyboard isn't working right now, so I couldn't look up any synonyms, so we'll have to go with that.
Previously on X-Men.
The pilot, set in Oregon. UFOs abducting teenagers. Teenagers later die. Resolution. Agents deduce culprit, Billy. No more abductions. Some regression hypnosis interrogation. Pentagon warehouse containing alien paraphernalia. 2. Deep Throat. Set in Iowa. A kidnapped fighter pilot. Possible alien aerospace technology. And a secret military base. Men in Black. Memory erasure. Resolution. Trespassing on federal property. Memory loss. Bruised kidney. Mysterious new ally. 3. Squeeze. Set in Baltimore, Maryland. The Monster. Our first. 100-year-old liver-eating mutant contortionist? Contortionist mutant. Yeah. Resolution. Agents arrest Toombs for breaking and entering an assault, but can't connect him with the murders. 4. Conduit. Set primarily around Lake Okoboji, Iowa. UFOs abduct teenage girl. Abduction affects boy, giving him some sort of magnified sensory perception. The resolution. Mulder and Scully solve tangentially connected murder. Abducted girl reappears. Single mom and adolescent child are detained by the NSA. 5. The Jersey Devil. Set in Atlantic City. The Monster. Feral naked New Jersey cannibal woman. Resolution. Cops shoot feral naked New Jersey cannibal woman. 6. Shadows. Set in Philadelphia, PA. Monster. The spirit of an executive who maybe committed treason for good money, who wants his death avenged. The resolution. Ghost finds evidence. Solid case against murderer and terror cell. So let's look at our protagonists. We have Dana Scully, a special agent and a medical doctor who teaches at Quantico, the FBI Academy. She is partnered with the talented but eccentric Fox Mulder. Her task is to debunk his work. Work which she is led to believe is a frivolous and embarrassing waste of time for the Bureau. Scully, especially in this first quarter, functions as a proxy for us, for the audience. She represents the voice of reason and of logical explanation. The skeptic to Mulder's believer. Scully, like most of us, is among the uninitiated. Despite all her training, she is unprepared for what she's about to experience. On the other hand, we have Fox Mulder. Mulder is 3/4 of a hard-boiled detective. Not quite Philip Marlowe or Sam Spade. He's got too much childlike enthusiasm for that. But he knows the players. He knows the score. He speaks the lingo. He's acquainted with the darkness. He's more than willing to break the rules or even the law when necessary. He's one step ahead of everyone else, but still 2 steps behind the thing that he's chasing. He's going to expose Scully and us to a parallel world, one that exists alongside of the one we know. And in this world, UFOs, monsters and the paranormal exist. The pilot starts us off with a hint of this atmospheric, shadowy aesthetic that the series will later be famous for.
She went to school with my son.
Could that be the class of '89, detective? It's happening again, isn't it?
In this first quarter, the cinematography is still developing, but you can immediately see the influence of Twin Peaks. And the rainy, gray-skied Pacific Northwest is going to be its own reoccurring character. Now, another characteristic of a hard-boiled detective is a kind of world weariness. We see that emerge from Mulder when he talks about the disappearance of his sister from 20 years prior.
She just disappeared out of her bed one night. Just gone. Vanished. No note, no phone calls, no evidence of anything.
You never found her.
The revelation at the end of the episode is that elements within the government seem to have knowledge of the abduction phenomenon. They've been through this before. There's more than one implant. This isn't their first UFO deal? God. Two takeaways. It feels obvious in retrospect, but the chemistry between David and Jill is immediately perceptible. They really do feel like natural partners.
This is the same stuff that I took a handful of in the forest.
Okay, well then maybe we should take it and run a lab
We
test
lost the
on it.
original sample in the fire. What else could it be?
All right, but I just want you to understand what it is you're saying.
You said it yourself.
Yeah, but you have to write it down in your report.
The other thing is, the pilot gives us this impression that we are just scratching the surface of a greater mystery. In Deep Throat, we meet the eponymous informant, a seemingly high-ranking government official who warns Mulder off the case. Naturally, Mulder refuses. He's got to know what's going on at this secret Air Force base. It's clear from this episode that Mulder is imbued with a dogged tenacity to discover the truth. His unrelenting nature illustrates that he's more than willing to put himself in danger without hesitation as long as it provides him answers. Now, Deep Throat as a man is a cipher. We don't know his motives or his allegiances, and we have no idea if Mulder can trust him. For comparison, Scully is equally unrelenting in her skepticism. She's already concerned that Mulder's eagerness to believe seems to be a kind of naivete. It appears to be a trait that can be exploited.
One of them taken almost 50 years ago, and another one you purchased today in a roadside diner. You're going out on a pretty big limb.
Tell me there isn't a remarkable resemblance.
Tell me one good reason why either of these photos is authentic.
Mulder would lie to Scully and run off on his own. He sees something amazing, but is captured and drugged. Now, Scully has to bail him out. Thinking very quickly and aggressively, she forces a risky prisoner swap. The episode ends with nowhere left to turn, and the solution is to give up and go home. Next, we meet Eugene Toombs. This episode will tell us a lot about both our protagonists and the future of the series. This non-serial story structure, the Monster of the Week, will make up the majority of the original series. We find out that Spooky Mulder is largely held in contempt by his fellow agents. Unsurprisingly, the Bureau is full of managerial class ladder climbers like Agent Colton. Colton just wants to solve cases for the credit, not the ethics. Scully shows an independent streak here and sticks up for Mulder. There is the impression that her association with him may be a risk to her reputation. This time, Mulder's quick thinking saves Scully, as he makes it to her apartment in time to keep her from being an unwilling organ donor. I'm going to say that this is even right now. We're 1-1. Mulder saving Scully this episode. And I think she kept him out of a shallow grave in the last episode. I think that's fair. Toombs represents an archetype. He's our inaugural monster of the week, and a monster in man's shape. We'll meet some very interesting human monsters in the next few episodes in this season. Some of the show's most memorable villains will fit this mold.
Have you ever killed a human being?
No.
Were you...
Conduit brings us back to the central tension of the series, UFO abductions, and Mulder's acute lack of closure and powerlessness around the disappearance of his sister. Scully tries to rein in Mulder's compulsions without success. We also get a glimpse of the social consequences of this weird phenomenon. Darlene Morris is basically a pariah in her community, and no one believes her.
All of my life I have been ridiculed for speaking my mind.
But it was the truth, Darlene.
The truth has caused me nothing but heartache. I don't want the same thing for her.
At the end of this episode, we get a small but significant revelation. Through regression hypnosis, Mulder recalls the moment of Samantha's abduction. He heard a voice, and that voice said that his sister would be returned to him one day. The prospect of this is why Mulder wants to believe. We jump to Atlantic City, where some light cannibalism has occurred. This one is entirely Scully's fault. She brings a bizarre case to Mulder, who, of course, can't resist. The Jersey Devil shows us just how persistent and charming Mulder can really be. His wry humor and his constant faint smirk wins us over. To mention another hard-boiled analog, consider Elliot Gould as Philip Marlowe in The Long Goodbye. A little less cynical, a little more clean-cut, but a lot of similarities.
Unlike you, Mulder, I would like to have a life.
I have a life.
Scully, normal, skeptical Scully, again tries to dissuade Mulder at basically every turn. While he's busy annoying the local PD, she goes on trying to lead a somewhat normal life. Child's birthday party, going out on a date. As it happens, she has dinner with the least interesting man in the DC metro area. So when Mulder calls, she doesn't even try to resist his siren song of weirdness. So Mulder and his two new friends are ready to hunt down the Neanderthal lady. He wants to make friends with the Beast Woman too. He's made friends with everybody else this episode. He's like a beagle. Our most substantial takeaway is at the end, Scully chooses Mulder despite his workaholic nature, but because of his sincere enthusiasm. Say what you will about Conduit and the Jersey Devil as scripts, they do have some excellent guest performances, in my opinion.
But most are scared of the woods.
Scared? Of what?
I don't know. The devil?
People say that's just a myth.
Depends on who you talk to.
Finally, we have shadows. the writers seem to struggle with creating a new look or a fresh take on what is essentially the classic ghost story. What we do see, however, is probably the best acting performances from David and Gillian so far.
You have seen it before, I can tell. You lied to them.
I would never lie. I willfully participated in a campaign of misinformation.
Mulder, steeped in paranormal folklore, has eliminated all but two possibilities. Scully gets a couple of good wisecracks in at his expense. She does not yet realize that he is always right. Now, what we do see is her being a special agent of the FBI. She manages to get Lauren to talk and assist in the investigation. We also see later that she takes a command role and displays her leadership capabilities. She really does seem like someone that would enjoy executing a warrant.
Everybody stay calm. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Ma'am, could you back away from those files, please?
On the other hand, Mulder really just wants to prove that ghosts are real. One can argue that this fixation on the paranormal has created some big blind spots for Mulder with regards to his regular FBI duties. This is the excuse that Division Chief Blevins wants to use to close the X-Files. So through the first quarter, we've got a format that allows for a wide variety of storytelling. We're seeing some character development. We have solid chemistry between our leads. And we have a group of writers who are trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So what does it take to make a first season episode of The X-Files? Well, so far, minus the commercials, title sequence, and end credits, an episode is about 40 minutes long. We begin with a cold open that shows the audience the event that the agents will later investigate. This familiar model will be the story structure for the entire series. So remember, this is network television in 1993. So they needed to write, film, edit, etc. 24 40-plus minute episodes for a season. The first 6 episodes will have 6 different directors, 3 different editors, and 5 writers. Alex Gansa and Howard Gordon, a near-exclusive writing team, will do Conduit. Glenn Morgan and James Wong, who are an exclusive writing team, did Squeeze and Shadows. And then our creator, Chris Carter, did The Pilot, Deep Throat, and The Jersey Devil. We'll see these writers do 13 more episodes this season. That's a lot of work. I stumbled on this little revelation. In an early interview, writer James Wong stated that when they began working on the first season scripts, Chris Carter did not have a plan. He conceived the series as a succession of UFO stories. Carter didn't begin with any sort of clear or bounded vision. Fortunately, he quickly changed direction after discussing story possibilities with the other writers.
When I created The X-Files, I knew that I wanted to depart as quickly as possible from the UFO extraterrestrial storyline because I knew that the stories couldn't sustain themselves, or the series couldn't sustain itself just by telling that kind of story.
So if you lie to us here today, you could be charged with perjury.
I'm going to make the obvious choice and say that the pilot is the best of these so far. My favorite scene is actually when Mulder and Scully first meet. And this line at the end is perfect.
Agent Mulder. What are his thoughts?
Agent Mulder believes we are not alone.
The best visual is from Conduit. You can see Mulder's reaction that there's a moment full of doubt.
Mulder, you are disturbing a crime scene.
Stop!
What if it's her? I need to know.
Maybe he's wrong about it all, and Ruby is dead in the woods from some mundane reason. Even still, it's closure. He's moving those rocks like his sister is buried there. Oh yes, before I forget. In Deep Throat, Men in Black accost our agents and give them an ultimatum. I need to make a correction from the trivia of that episode. The first mention of the Men in Black actually comes from a fellow West Virginian. In 1956, Gray Barker wrote a book titled They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers. In it, he describes in detail Men in Black threatening a friend of his, Albert Bender, publisher of the Space Review, a fringe UFO journal at the time. I have to mention that Gray Barker is a big bullshitter and loved pulling hoaxes. He was not a believer, but a cynical opportunist. I think I'm going to have to talk about him more at a later date. That's it. That's our review of the first quarter. Next up is episode 7, Ghost in the Machine.
This is very serious. Do you understand how serious this is?